Wisco, good evening. Happy Wednesday. It is March the 27th. Super excited. Hoping next week I got going to be actually have like a little studio set up. Looking forward to that. Hopefully it's one of our last ones with just a background. Appreciate you guys stopping out. Just to get you up to speed, we got a post out there today just kind of explaining where we're at, going back to the Capitol tomorrow to meet with Senator Johnson. Looking forward to that. Got a couple events coming up where we'll be able to get out there, get a chance to meet some of you folks. Looking forward to that as well. Also, got to give a huge shout out to our sponsor and partner, Higher Love, the UP's finest, in my opinion. And especially when they hook it up with the discount code that you see right above us. Super appreciate that. Got a chance to stop out to their new Menominee location last week, and it is nice. Gotta love that deli style. Jill, hey Jill, good evening. Thanks for stopping out. Also, a huge shout out to Ignite Dispensary and Cigar. Make sure you check them out for your Wisconsin needs. You'll be surprised that you're not in Michigan. Shout out to those guys for doing it the right way. Got a chance to meet with the guest that we're going to be talking with here in Christy and hear her story that she's been through with cannabis, and definitely felt like there's just a few things that I think some people might not have ran into that unfortunately she had to, and just the overall situation that she ended up in is just another reason that gets me motivated to do whatever I can to help try and get things legalized. Let's get Christy in here. She joins us from Minnesota. Hey, Christy, how's it going?
Hello, everybody. How are you guys?
Hey. Todd, thanks for stopping by, man. Christy had reached out, shared her story with me again, and wanted to get that to you guys. So before we get going into the story, Christy, can you just tell us a little bit about when you first, I always like to just kind of get the landscape of when people first kind of discovered cannabis. Was it in your youth as well, back in the day?
Actually, I kind of come to cannabis from a very unique angle in that I was the proverbial good girl. I didn't even like marijuana growing up.
Okay.
Didn't care for it. And I guess I didn't really think about it one way or the other. I just knew that in the profession that I chose, it wasn't something that was ever really an option to me.
Sure.
So for me, it was honestly just like a last grab. Okay, well, nothing else is working. Let's try this,
Okay. Well, and if you want to, if you want to explain what you kind of started experiencing as far as you had some health issues, is my
Sure,
understanding, and what
sure.
kind of led you down that road.
I have an autoimmune disorder, and it was misdiagnosed. It presents itself in my joints and my ligaments. And for many years, I was under the care of a doctor because of my shoulder not functioning correctly after an injury. Um, and I was on opioids, and my pain was just unbelievable. But it was becoming body wide. So it was clear to me that it wasn't just my shoulder. There was something much different going on, and I wasn't getting any answers. And luckily, one of my hobbies is I really enjoyed competing with dogs, and the mecca for dog competition is out in California. Well, we also know what else is out in California.
Sure.
And a really good friend of mine, really good dog trainer of mine, turned me on to CBD and said, "Why don't you try this instead of the opioids?" And then it became a progression of building my tolerance up from the CBD, and getting off of the opioids altogether. So
Gotcha.
I do finally have the correct operating diagnosis now. I have an excellent rheumatologist who does support my cannabis use, which is really nice for a change.
I hear you there. Well, and so my understanding is we ran into issues when you got back to Wisconsin and you were talking to your doctor. Is that kind of how it all started then?
Yeah, I required a pretty significant serious back surgery as a result of the disorder. And this was in Wisconsin, mind you. Now, this doctor had also done a previous fusion on my neck. And I told him that since that neck fusion and the shoulder surgery that I had stopped using opioids altogether, and I was very proud of myself. I was like, I've stopped using opioids altogether, and now I use just cannabis for pain control. I'm in a better state of mind. I feel better. And you know how when you're telling somebody something where you're really happy and you can just watch that they're not?
Yeah.
He was just not into it at all. And later on, circumstances required me to have to request my medical records, and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to come on the podcast. To all of you people out there in Wisconsin, I understand being honest with your doctor is 100% important. However, be aware that when I looked at my medical records in Wisconsin, I was told doctors have no other alternative but to put down cannabis abuse in your medical records because it's not legal there yet. So I'm labeled as a cannabis abuser junkie in my medical records now because I was honest.
That is crazy. That's got to be it because
And I get treated like it's too when you show up to medical appointments, you know.
sure.
When people are treating you like a drug seeker. And
Right. Well, and then if so the circumstances only got a little tougher from there, right? I mean, now you're kind of labeled everywhere you go.
right,
Obviously with this issue, and
right.
then where was kind of the next step where
Well,
you realized this is getting I'm
once again, my exuberance and excitement, and I'm finding something that's finally helping me that traditional medicine isn't, and I was getting very vocal about that. And in running my own business and everything, I never considered the risk that I was putting my husband at the time in. We were both medical professionals. He, however, went on and he's a doctor. So my marijuana use put him at risk as well.
gotcha.
And it kind of came to a culmination where I saw the writing on the wall, the danger for him, and the, my disease doesn't get better. It's a progressive thing, and I don't see me not using cannabis because for me it's a choice between would you rather drink or breathe. You know,
Sure.
I don't approach cannabis from the "Woo, let's get high." Do I enjoy getting high, and do I enjoy doing it recreationally? Absolutely, but for me, it's right up there with water and air to function.
Uh,
Legalization and declassification. Well, I had to divorce my husband and move to Minnesota to take away the risk that I was putting on to him. And you know, it's it shouldn't be for such a healing plant. The circumstances.
well, and it is bizarre because I know a family member who has their doctorate degree and is a teacher, and I just know how much trouble can happen if there's an illegal substance that happens to be in a house that you're a part of, and just like that's just ah, it's so
Right. Absolutely. I have another friend who's in an issue right now. It's a legal issue where all she was doing, and it was more out of fear, she was removing a Delta 9 product out of her house in Wisconsin. And she's getting in trouble for that. And if the law wasn't there that you could lose your children, or if that stigma wasn't there, it wouldn't be necessary.
sure.
You know, it's a healing plant. If these lawmakers could see, even before I started my marijuana use, they started showing us videos and continuing education of what it can do for Parkinson's, what it can do for autism, what it can do for PTSD. The list goes on and on and on, and they're finding out more and more as the science grows. You know,
Sure.
I think the louder and the more vocal that people can be without putting the others near them at risk,
Sure.
you know, If you can do it, do it. No,
Well, and that's where, I think sharing the stories of, the severity of some issues that people have as far as seems to be a lot of pain issues,
absolutely.
like with Todd in here as well in the comments. And I think getting those shared, I think that is it. I mean, that should have a lot of pull because that's real people and figuring out something that helped them. And that's
Absolutely.
getting the message across and what this plant can do. Um, yeah, I got to figure out a way to because I don't know what the best I don't know if we get a group of people together, we go down there, if we take short videos or write them out. But either way, I'm going to talk with Senator Johnson tomorrow, see if she has an idea on what would maybe be the best way to do that because it's just the stories stories sound like they're not real, but the real life stories that I've been able to learn of people like yourself who have found that relief from a plant and sometimes the nightmare that can end up in, like, that's just crazy. um,
Mhm.
Philip says aloha from Madison, thank you for telling your story. Scott says legalize it, damn. Han says a friend and his ex-wife were railroaded into being declared unfit parents. I think they may have auctioned his child off. I saw somewhere there was a similar story. I got a lady that reached out a couple weeks back. There's just some crazy stuff out there. We need to get this together. We need to. Um, this should not be what we have to deal with. Tammy says, I just had a friend that had a scheduled C-section. Her baby's umbilical cord tested positive for THC. That's what this other lady that I talked to a few weeks back. She received a letter in the mail a month later, and nothing came of it. Well, that's good, but I heard this was the opposite. It was not good when they found the
Mhm.
THC, which my
I've
understanding is that, and I'm definitely not a medical professional, uh, but my understanding is that, or I think it's the baby, something with the baby when born. There's something that has super small traces of everything that's happened since like conception. So someone easily could have, consumed cannabis the day before baby was even technically conceived, or what, like it doesn't mean that this lady was smoking cannabis every day when it tests in the baby, is my understanding. I got to get more info on that. But Sassy says, if I saw that on my chart, I would demand it be removed. It's BS and drug seeking. I don't know how they can say that when I always tell them I don't want the pills. Um, you don't mess around. She was telling me, I forget what she was having surgery, and she said, I told the doctor, I said, I don't need none of that stuff. I took my gummies before I got here. So you don't mess around. Hey, from Black River Falls. What's up, man? Let's see here. Had a couple questions, and by all means, if people in the comments have questions that are respectful, obviously, feel free to drop those. We're not here to like name your children or that kind of stuff, but um, we've got. At what point did you realize that relocating was your best or only option for treatment? How did you feel about making such a significant life change? I'm sure it wasn't hip hip hooray.
Yeah, no, no, it was met with a lot of fighting between me and my ex-spouse. A lot it was, and I was scared about how am I going to take care of myself.
Sure,
Sometimes I have really bad days where I need help. You
sure.
know, um, luckily I've got a really good friend that I stay with out here while I'm in Minnesota. But no, I was getting to the point where I was too afraid that something was going to happen to my significant other
Sure,
because of my activities.
sure.
Um, but no, it wasn't really well supported.
Of
and,
course.
and I go back on the weekends and I visit. I go see my dogs.
Sure. Did
uh,
it were you able to still stay pretty active in the dog world? I know you were pretty busy in that, right?
I was
Okay.
at one time. Now, not so much. I'm still kind of coming back from that back surgery that I had and getting back on meds and figuring things out,
Gotcha.
but not quite.
No, that's fair. Um how did or can you talk about the legal challenges or considerations you faced in both Wisconsin and your new state regarding medical? Can you go over what it was? Because when you got your medical in Minnesota, would that have been a couple of years ago? Like one of the first?
Yeah, I got it right away.
Well, what
And of
was that
course,
process like, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
very
how
easy.
did, yeah,
Extremely easy. Um, you can look up. Of course, I can't remember the name of the place, but if you just look up medical card cannabis Minnesota, you'll find it. It's a phone call, and in Minnesota here, the diagnosis is you could basically stub your toe,
sure,
and you'll get medical. But
gotcha.
I prefer to have the medical card because it gives you more, you're able to have more on your person. So if I need to stock up and hold for a while where I'm going to be having a surgery or going through a flare or whatever, it gives me more leeway. And then I can also have a caretaker pick up for me if I ever
They do have
need
that
that.
program. Okay, right on. That's good to hear. Um, as far as the community or as like support groups that are in the state there, um, have you found something out there that kind of is supportive of your journey that you're able to kind of cling to and join up with?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we were touched on briefly before we started was I'm not the most social person in the world. It's very easy for me to get sucked into dogs, and I'm good. Dogs and coffee and weed. But this whole situation has kind of forced me to get outside of myself and meet some really cool people that have just stories that are just as sad or sadder, people who have spent, 10, 20 years in prison, nonviolent offenses for cannabis. Um, we have growers meetings that happen out here, Twin Cities High in Golden Valley. Every Thursday, we have those where we just get together and it's just a bunch of growers and we share and talk. And it's completely legal to smoke out there. And it's so different.
Jealous,
Considering if I get in the car and go across the border, then I'm going to get arrested for the same
right?
thing.
Well, and I see a lot of events out there and on the feed and stuff. So it's neat to see that there is that's just one of the concerns I have with trying to make sure it's legalized the right way. Is like I don't think any of us want to see it legal, but like we can't socially enjoy it. I feel like that's just
Exactly.
part of the beauty of the plant is just the way that it can, bring people together, spark ideas,
Well,
create
and I'm
happiness.
even seeing that counties, and I guess it depends on the each police department, but different counties just have certain different attitudes. Like in Golden Valley, they're fine with you smoking right out in front of the store. However, you're not allowed, I believe, to smoke on the street in Brooklyn Park, which is
Okay.
really strange. Um, Coon Rapids wanted to have one of their first legalization parties, and the Coon Rapids Police Department said that they would basically create a barrier of police vehicles to prevent it from happening. So
Yeah.
I guess it just all depends on the location or the particular department area.
Gotcha. Sure. And we got a chime in here. Tammy says you cannot partake in public space in Denver, Colorado. They just started opening lounges for it. Got it. Burton says if it's legal, but we are restricted from producing our own, then it's useless. Agree with that as well. We've got to be hardcore about our right to produce for ourselves, 100%. Um,
Absolutely, because
that's
with my being on disability, there's absolutely no way without having the ability to grow my own, I would never be able to afford the medicine.
true. Yeah.
And that's something that people are. Travis Cullen from Freedom Soda, he created a THC drink. He actually spent time in prison himself, and now he sells this soda, and 100% of the profits go to nonviolent cannabis offenders all throughout the country that are sitting in prison.
Oh, wow.
But him and another girl, Rachel, and I wish I could remember her last name, but they are working to get the law somewhat amended to allow for caretakers. So, say say if I were to get, or somebody else were to be bedbound and not able to grow their own plants, somebody else would be able to be a caretaker and grow their plants for them.
Oh, okay.
And we're
Well,
trying
that's
to
a
get
plus.
that amended into the mill like Michigan has.
Okay. That'd be a
So
huge plus. That'd be a good idea. And
uh,
and I think too lounges are a good idea. Like Pete with Green Swan is saying, I think lounges are a good spot, especially for some of your newer consumers slash also just I don't know just that relaxing. I mean, it shouldn't be any different than people that enjoy their time going to the bar at night. Like I don't,
yep,
but if I wanted to, I could see going to a lounge because like I just don't like what alcohol does. I don't like feeling sleepy and tired. But
right,
with cannabis, like just yeah, it hopefully there is a lounge. I think that's a good approach to education as well. So
yep.
I
And
think
more
lounges.
and more of them are opening up. Green
I'm noticing that.
Gardens is one that's amazing. Twin Cities High, Pot Shots, all little cannabis lounges that are getting
That's
more and
awesome.
more popular, and I think it's neat. There, I've met people that are like, "Well, geez, I've known so and so for like only however long it's been legal here now, like a year, but we've lived down the street from one another for 5 years, and we've been growing in secret."
Sure.
But now all these people can come out and talk. We don't have to hide anymore.
Right. I agree with that. Well, and actually, this is a great one that Don has on here. I think this is a pretty good approach. I want to upgrade all alcohol licenses to include single use products. I can see single use being a little more controllable as far as that goes. So that's a pretty smart approach. I hadn't heard that one yet. Scott says jumping borders is not cool for our state. Yeah, he got that right. And then in talking to people at the Indigenous Summit, a couple of them are dispensaries, going to have dispensaries in Minnesota for recreational, and they're all going to be building right on the border by Wisconsin. So it's only going to get more busy when it comes to the border. Unfortunately, just adding a different side of the state. Burton says, "Man, I sure hope so. There needs to be a different vibe available for people who want to go out. Some of us are pretty tired of breweries, bars, restaurants, right? Just a relaxing. Like I don't bars. We don't go very often. I mean, if we want a good meal, there's a place in town and they have a bar section of that, and it's not too bad because it's kind of split. So the bar and then, but it's still just loud. Like I don't know. I just like chill vibes, chill.
Yep,
That I can
yep.
deal with. Like, that's just my
Well, I
jam.
promise you, if when it goes legal in Wisconsin, we will have one hell of a party in Somerset, Wisconsin.
Better believe it. Better believe it.
Everybody on this podcast, mark
Right.
your calendars.
We'll be there. We will be there. So, Christy, just given your experience, how do you feel about Wisconsin's current laws on medical cannabis? And do you think stories like yours could influence change?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because for people who this Voss who say, "Well, it just can't be legal here," sir. Why not? Why can't I live with my family and take the medicine that I need and not break any laws? I'm not
Right.
hurting anybody. I'm helping myself and the people around me because I'm a lot more pleasant to be around when I'm medicated and not in pain. You know, uh, I think putting a face, and not just me, putting a face and letting them see these are the people that you're hurting.
Right.
Children, mothers, fathers, soldiers. You know, there's if alcohol is legal, then cannabis should be too.
100%. 100%. And yeah, when I sat down with Boss's aide, when I start getting that, it just can't be recreate. Why? And there was no good reason for why. It just
Why? Exactly. Why?
uh, um So we've got on here. What advice would you give to someone in a similar situation in Wisconsin or another state that is restrictive medical cannabis laws? Um, yeah, that's
It's hard because when I in retrospect, when I was being very vocal about it, I did not consider the risks that I was putting my husband in. So what I would tell you is, you know, is there
yeah,
anybody in your life that you could potentially harm or make a target of, you know, but if not, and if it's something that you do feel passionately about, the more names and the more faces that we can stand out. And I mean, we're all kinds of different people. We're educated people. We're not educated people. We're the same constituency that made America.
Right.
And we've spoken multiple times. We want it in Wisconsin, and we're being
Right.
ignored.
Well, we are. We got a couple of events coming up, which will be good just to kind of grow the getting together. And again, I know I've had a couple people reach out and they're like, "Man, what's going on? We're not what I guess doing anything. We're trying, but we also can't." My approach, anyways, is like, okay, we're starting to get quite a few voices, but if we just go in there swinging, like, then it might
Right.
just be, oh yeah, it's them crazies. Like trying to keep this level headed, like, okay, you can only tell me so many times. Here's what you got to try, and like I get the frustration, but again, I this was just pointed out to me a week or two ago, and it's really stuck with me because there's days where I'm frustrated too, but then kind of my switch to flip it back to, hey, no, this is what we need to do. Is just we have to be closer today than we were any other day to legalizing Wisconsin. And again, it sucks not knowing how long it's gonna take. I think for sure by next year, for whatever reason, just hearing some stuff out there, I think that would play out. But I'm gonna do whatever I can to try and get it this year. But I'm not gonna go in and attack people just
Right.
yet. I mean, if it gets to that, that's one thing. But um, we do need lobbyists and PACs. 100% agree with that. If anybody knows anything on the PAC front, let me know. I looked into it. It looks confusing, to say the least. But I definitely think that would be a big part. Um, what does this say here? Agard has been trying for 10 years. Yes, she has. Um, again, I think part of the issue in Wisconsin for the last little while has been right versus left, unfortunately. So that's where I think next year things might change, but we'll have to see on that front. Also, Mohican, I was glad to hear that you got things picked up on your end with your case. He also says law enforcement needs to be able to say, I smell cannabis so they can ignore your rights. Yeah, no kidding. Philip Scott says lobby all day. Yes, can't wait for our lobby day down there. It's gonna be fun, and then we got to figure out a day to get the people down there as well. Voss has been shutting down Agard along with everyone else, says Don. Yeah, that does definitely appear to be the case. Christy and the group, what changes do you hope to see in the laws surrounding medical cannabis in Wisconsin and nationally in the future? Do you, Christy, just when it comes to your med card, have you traveled to another state that was had legal medical and purchased with it yet? I was just
Like,
curious if
can
it
I
was
use
pretty.
a Minnesota card in Colorado?
Yeah.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope. Nope. They will take into consideration that you're a medical patient, but you don't get the same uh what is discount.
Okay. But they still served you your medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I just didn't know. I could foresee. I don't know. I just feel like everything is way more complicated than it has to be. So that's one thing I would like to see is just make sure that it stays pretty fluent, as long as you're in a legal state, which should be all of them. But unfortunately, isn't. But just to play their game, as long as you're in a legal state, I would hope that it's a pretty easy access. Um, Tammy says, I don't think it's possible to use your medical card across the legal states. We'll have to look. Well, actually, Sassy says, "Oh, you do in Michigan. It even shows my allotment as a patient, an Arizona card in Michigan. So there is
Oh
some things
wow.
out there. I know some people who got a Cali med card when Michigan first went medical. So maybe Michigan's a
Huh.
little different. I guess we'll have to kind of see, but should be
Interesting.
recreational across the board. I agree with that. Jeremiah, Senator Agard is running for Dane County Executive, which would be taking her out of her Senate seat, which is correct. And again,
Yeah, well, why?
well,
I don't
so,
want her
okay,
to leave.
I don't either. And I know this isn't a slam dunk by any means, but with how hard that woman's worked for cannabis, I feel like if she wasn't damn near certain that it was going to happen, that she would not be set. But I could be weird. That's just I have no clue. I don't feel comfortable saying, "Hey, what the hell's going on here? Where are you going?" So, but that's just my take. Just knowing how dedicated she is, and she'll still be around, obviously, to help with the bill and language and stuff too. So, I'm sure it'll figure out. What do we got here? Burton says cannabis is a gateway drug that will lead you to taking care of yourself and hopefully spark an interest in other plants, ecology, and how they matter. August says, I can't believe it's a right versus left thing. Just knowing all the conservative friends I have are cannabis users. Yeah, it's something's got to give. And that's the approach I've been bringing to the Republicans is, hey, the majority of the people who vote for you are for this. What the hell? Like, wouldn't you want to be the first one to step up? I feel like there's not been a Republican that stepped up and said Wisconsin should legalize adult responsible use. And I feel like if you were the one to start that, I would have a lot of respect for you because I get you're in a tough spot, but you're there because of the people. It's plain and simple. It's wanted. It's deserved. It's not just the consumption that's good. It's all the other stuff it brings too. It's just completely frustrating. Burton says it's helped keep me off the booze, and my life has gotten better because of it. That's awesome, man. Glad to hear that. You hear that quick. Let's end it with this one. If you could say one thing to the legislators in Wisconsin about the importance of medical cannabis or cannabis access in general, what would it be? Without swearing at them.
It's challenging. It just, you got to throw away the stereotypes that you got in your head from what you think marijuana is and what cannabis can help with. It's not just something to run around and get high with. It can help with a multifaceted diseases and mental deficits. Just, I don't even know how to sum it up. I'm kind of overwhelmed,
Right. I feel that. Well, I think Tammy says it pretty well too. She says that they are supposed to represent the people regardless of their personal feelings.
Yeah, no kidding.
I feel like a lot of them haven't taken the time to look into cannabis. That's why we bring them documentation and stuff when we go visit them. Just because there seems to be a lot of, like you said, just that stigma from back in the day, the war on drugs or whatnot, where it's like, oh, cannabis is, or, they call it marijuana, but cannabis is bad. And then they never take the time to actually look into it.
Right.
I think we got to just keep hitting them with the information, hitting them with the facts. Education, education, education. The plant is beautiful, and I'm glad you found access to it. I obviously, it's unfortunate the scenario in which you had to go to get your access to it, Christy. But hopefully, we'll be able to be a part of the change that make sure that doesn't happen in the future for folks. If you guys are in the comments and you got similar stories, let's make sure reach out. I want to keep sharing people's stories. Just keep touching all the different avenues and working on a way to get these stories together, get the people together. And again, I know it's frustrating. I know it's not like I can't say, oh, hey, we're 75% to legalization. We're still all throwing out ideas. We're trying different things, but we're together right now. I know it's not. There's a race. I can't say we're winning towards this legalization or whatever, but we're gaining the numbers, and that's important. That's got us this far where at least they're finally sitting down and talking and that kind of stuff. And it's because of you guys being a part of this thing. So let's keep at it. Christy, I appreciate your time.
Of course. Yours as well. Thanks for all your help.
Oh, absolutely.
And effort and time.
I appreciate you sharing your story. And let's keep moving this thing. Tammy says, I don't understand why Evers just can't put a vote on the ballot like Colorado's governor. I will ask tomorrow. I'm sure there's some kind of stipulation, unfortunately, but that would be miraculously awesome. So,
right.
Well, thanks everybody for stopping out tonight's episode of the podcast. We'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Christy, have one for me over there. I'll have one for you guys. All right. Have a good night, guys. See you later.